Take a good look at this chart right here. A clear level, a breakout of that level, a pullback into that level for a retest, and that's a perfect buy opportunity, right? Wrong. If you bought there, you have just become the liquidity for the bigger players. Why? Because you're ignoring that one thing that never lies, and that's volume. I have 4 charts with me today. 3 of them are invalid trades because volume doesn't line up, and one of them is a perfect setup. To the untrained eye, they all look the same. And by the end of this video, you will understand which one is the best setup and know exactly how to spot the differences using the 3 phases of volume. If you're able to master this, your win rate will go up dramatically. So let's get started. Okay, so trading doesn't need to be complicated. We can really just simplify things by understanding where the big money is actually participating. And we do that by checking these 3 phases. Phase number 1, the activation. Now the activation is pretty self-explanatory. Let's say if we're looking for a pullback test to look for a buy. Now before the pullback and test even comes in, we need to first make sure that whatever happens prior, there is power involved to carry the trade forward. So this move here becomes the crucial aspect of this entire strategy. We need to make sure that this move towards the upside prior to the pullback coming in, it needs to come with the bigger players activating. And how do we know the bigger players are activating? We do that by looking at volume. When the volumes are high here, that only means one thing. They're pouring money into this market, pushing price higher. Because volume only means one thing. It means transaction in the market. For us, if we're just looking at volume itself, there's no real meaning. All we know is there is transaction going on. Is the net transaction to go up or to go down? We need to look at that based on price action. So if there is high volume coming in, showing up, and the end result of that is price going higher, that's telling us bigger players are interested for the buys. And that's the activation. The second phase is the pullback. Now, if the activation is the ignition, the pullback phase is when the market is taking a breath. Now, in the pullback phase, you want to make sure that there's no volume coming in whatsoever. Because again, like what we were saying earlier, volume only means transaction in the market, and based on price action, we understand if the bigger players are looking for a buy or a sell. If you find yourself in a situation where you're looking at a pullback to look for a buy, but you see activation on the pullback side, that's not a particularly good sign, because that might mean the bigger players are trying to cash out. Whatever buy they were doing here, they're doing all of those transactions to sell off their position, which then cause the market to move lower. All of that is shown by 2 things: the volume showing up plus price action telling you that price is going down. So you always want to make sure when you're looking for a retest, in this case to buy, make sure that the volume on the pullback is as low as possible, making sure that the market is actually taking a breath. And then the third phase, the resumption. Once the market has taken a breath, you want to see the market continuing the move up, sprinting. What I mean by sprinting is with volume showing up again. Now again, if they're happy with this price they're getting in on this pullback, we want to see the bigger players stepping back in, pushing price higher. And we can only justify that by seeing high volume resuming this move towards the upside. Now, this high volume can show up at the bottom area here, also indicating that any short-term sellers who are selling here, they're all cashing out. But think about it, if they're cashing out, they have to sell off their position to a buyer. And if they're selling off their position to a buyer and they're doing a lot of it, volume is gonna show up. And if that volume all shows up at a good spot in the market, again, that adds fuel to the fire to resume this trend towards the upside. Now, if you see a setup with the volume not showing up like this, that's probably a trap and you do not want to fall into them. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like. Now, right here, we have the EURUSD in a clear uptrend. Now we see the higher highs and higher lows coming in. And finally, at the very top here, we see the next high breaching this area right here. And right now, price is pulling it back slow and steady into this SNR zone right here. Now, notice that everything on the chart looks picture perfect. But if we look at the volume right at the bottom here, there is absolutely no activation whatsoever on this move up. Ideally, you want to see activation as price makes a breach towards the upper side. In this case, we do not see that at all. it's all very low, all very quiet, which only mean one thing: the bigger players are not around to push price higher. Which means if you were to join the buys right here, let's drop down to the 15-minute time frame and have a look at the precise area to look for a buy. If you look at the lower time frame right here, we do see a proper entry. We see price pulling back into the SNR. We see things are really slowing down, and in fact, we're making higher highs and higher lows in this case, right? We are clearing this level and we have a retest into that level. Things look like it's gonna turn around. If we were to look for a buy that looks something like this, taking it up to the recent high, stop loss right below the low, this trade would be a huge mistake, just because there is no volume on the activation. And having that said, let's have a look at the next one in store. So this is the setup that you saw earlier. We have a breach towards the upper side here, breaching out of this huge ass range, this range right here. Now, typically a breakout of a big range like that would find itself doing a retest to resume to make new highs. Now, if we really finesse that area, we broke out of this zone here, we came back for a retest. But if we have a look at the volume, we are able to see one specific thing, and that is, as the pullback is coming in, the second phase, the breath the market is trying to take, it's coming in with fire. It's breathing fire like a dragon, right? That's not good. That's not what we want, because right here we are able to see as price comes down towards the downside for a retest, we see super duper high volume. And like what I was saying earlier, this could be a sign that buyers are cashing out, sellers are stepping back in. And if this looks like a perfect spot for a buy, because there is a clear SNR, we have breached out of this small little zone right here. If we were to look for a buy like so, taking it up to the recent high, this again would be a mistake. Buying something like this would be the definition of buying a falling knife. Alright, so let's have a look at this third chart that we have right here on the Euro USD 1 hour time frame. We are in a clear trending market. We have broken out of this recent high and price is pulling back into support equals resistance. Now, if we pull up the volume, we see a few things. We see high volume activation for phase 1 pushing price towards the upper side. On the pullback itself, we see low volume as well. So things are looking very good. However, on the activation phase, which is the phase that should show high volume right here, it's not showing any high volume, and that's a big concern. If we drop down to the 15-minute time frame, we are able to see that again, there is a very clear entry where the lower lows are becoming higher lows and the lower highs are becoming higher highs, right? A perfect entry for this would look something like this, getting in on the pullback right here after we breach this support equals resistance right around there. Stops would be below, taking price up to the recent high. Now, this would be a perfect setup and things are looking pretty decent moving towards the upper side. However, again, just to remind you, there is no volume on the activation. And if we really track forward to see what happened, things took a sharp turn very quickly. So this is pretty much like a car that's running out of gas going up a hill. It could go a little bit further, but it's gonna stop and slide back all the way down to the bottom of the hill. So what does the perfect setup actually look like? Let's apply the same logic to this final example that I have. And for that, we do not need to go any further. It's just a couple of days back when we see this breach towards the upside and a pullback coming in. And for that, let's have a look at this chart right here. Again, on the Euro USD, again in a strong trending uptrend, and we see a breach towards the upside and a pullback coming in. Now, if we're looking to buy this retest of this uptrend, let's just make sure that all three phases has the right volume involved. So phase number 1, the activation. Let's have a look at the volume. We see high volume pushing price towards the upper side. That's what we want to see, right? Second thing, the pullback. We want to make sure the market is actually taking a breath and it's actually resting, meaning to say that there is no volume on the pullback. Do we have any volume on the pullback? No, we do not. Now for the third phase, we're going to do this together. I'm going to drop down to the lower time frame and tell you exactly where the entry would look like. So before doing that, let's just mark out the level we're looking at, which is this zone right here. And what do we want to see? We want to see high volume coming in. If we drop down to the lower time frame, what's surprising here is there is actually an entry. How do I know that that's an entry? Because I'm seeing that this downtrend that's coming in is reaching the zone on the higher time frame, but it's not making any more lower lows. Typically, as soon as price starts making higher highs and higher lows, this would be an area for an entry. However, there is no volume whatsoever. We want to see volume really picking up before even thinking of the buys. And if that's the case, you do not want to look for your buys just off yet. I want you to wait for the volume to come back in during the activation phase before jumping in. So if that's the case, the easiest thing you can do is go back to the higher time frame and wait for the activation to actually come in. Now we see price trying to go lower, but it's not making any more lower lows at this point. And at this juncture right here, again, we see volume, this two volume bars starting to pick up. We can compare that with the volume on the left. These are low volumes. This is the area that we were looking at earlier, still fairly low. But at this point right here, high volume is coming in. There is transaction involved here. And based on the price action, we are resolving to the upper side, meaning the market is about to sprint. So if we go back to the lower time frame and really look at what's happening here, we can really see the volume gradually increases, pushing price higher. Now, as price goes higher and as we start making higher highs now, this is the point where you can start looking for an entry. As price comes down, that's where you can look for an entry. Stop loss do not need to be wide as long as it's below the zone, and you can take the trade easily to the recent high or even higher. Now, once you have all the confirmation you need, all you need to do is go back to the 60-minute time frame and wait for price to pull back into that area and see how far price can go. We moved sideways, retested our entry, coming back for another test, and there we go. 3 phases that needs to be present in the market to make sure that when you take a trade, it's the safest possible trade that guarantees a high win rate. Making sure that there is activation involved on the pullback phase, there is no volume, and when the trade is ready to go on the retest, you want to see high volume coming back in. When you see all of those things present in the market, that pullback buy that you're going to be doing or a pullback sell will have that much higher probability of actually performing. And in this case, performing much better than just targeting the recent high. Mastering volume takes patience. As you can see, it takes a lot of trial and error before you really understand what you want to look for in the market. Now, I have put together a 6-step trading hack worksheet that you can download in the link in the description below. And in that worksheet, I'm going to talk about all the price action needed to actually trade trend pullbacks in the most safest and consistent manner ever. Download that PDF and use the knowledge that you will be getting there with the volume analysis that I have just shown you, and you will be getting extraordinary results in your trading. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers, bye for now.